Well, good morning. It didn't work this time. Lately, I've been waking up sometime between midnight and 2 o'clock and putting my video up on Facebook and then going right back to bed without getting stuck at the computer. Well, I tried to do that again today, but I could not fall back to sleep. This video was working on me, and I got up shortly after 2:22 actually. I rolled over at 2:22 and got up a little bit thereafter and finally came to the computer again to prepare today's video, and it's ready to go. I've checked up all my emails. I didn't get birthdays done yet, but I did check emails. The title for today's video, which is actually again tomorrow's video, the 17th. Oh, that's my first ex-wife's birthday. I need to remind myself to wish her a happy birthday tomorrow. Anyway, seeing the good without ignoring the bad. That's the title. Ignorance and denial go hand in hand. Both, as I see it, are products of the New Age belief system that supposedly supports positive mental attitude, PMA. There's nothing wrong with looking for the good in everything. It's unhealthy not to. But to ignore negative issues and avoid facing our own darkness will never lead to a healthy balance. In a world of polarity, each pole in every pair of opposites is not only significant, it is essential. Any attempt to separate poles under the guise of eliminating duality is not only an exercise in futility. If it were possible, it would be a death knell for physical existence. The idea of eliminating duality is another and perhaps the most damaging of all New Age beliefs. It is an insane and psychopathic doctrine, anti-life by its very nature, and is at the root of all attempts to escape accountability for our own creations. Now, you've heard me talk different times about a subject that I have pondered over and over again, and I have been on both sides of the issue. Do we create our own reality? You've heard me talk about it. The truth of the matter is yes and no. Ah, the paradox. The ego mind, the conscious mind, as I see it, is incapable at this point in time in our evolution of creating our own reality. It's impossible. If I could create the reality that I would want, the world would be a much nicer place. There would be no chemtrails. There would be no genetically modified food. There would be no poison medications. There would be no disinformation being spread by media and and be taught in schools and taught in churches. There would be a whole lot of things that would be a whole lot different than what they are, because there's a part of me that by my very nature would like to eliminate all the things that I think are the most problematic in my world. And some of those things are simply a matter of consciousness. Consciousness does create our reality, but it's not individual consciousness, it's group consciousness. It's the collective. And the collective has created the world that we live in. I believe that that's true. And the collective has been influenced by elements and essences and beings that have both benevolent and malevolent intent. And it's hard sometimes to separate them, because even the malevolent intent, behind it, there may very well be a benevolent purpose for the malevolent intent. I know That's too much for a lot of people to even get their minds around, let alone their hearts. But we must get our heart around it. We must take responsibility for all of the confusion that we've created as we've walked this pathway of life in physical existence. Physical form requires a positive and negative polarity dance. Not an avoid dance, but an interconnected dance where we recognize the importance of light and darkness, because either by itself would be blindness. Did you ever think of that? That the light only would produce as much blindness as the dark only. Seeing is a balance. It's a dance between light and dark. Physical manifestation is a dance between the North Pole and the South Magnetic Pole, or the positive pole and the negative pole. Life is a dance between the masculine and the feminine. Always has been, and whether you want to believe it or not, I believe it, that it always will be. And when it ceases to be, so does existence cease to be. So does life cease to be. Physical manifestation requires polarity, requires duality. What it does not require is polarization. Polarization is a negative creation that has come into existence that doesn't really exist, where there is a war, a battle between light and dark, a battle between masculine and feminine, a battle between the positive and the negative. And each is trying desperately to eliminate the other so that it alone can be right. That's where the ego is totally off base. It's the attempt to say, well, I'm one of the guys with the good hat. I'm one of the white hats. I've got the good intentions. And the only way that I can be secure is if I can eliminate all those people with bad intentions. All the dark hats. And I chuckle at that, but this is the world that we live in. And we're not going to change anything by not telling ourselves the truth about it. There is no salvation in avoidance. There is no salvation in denial. There is no salvation in choosing to be ignorant. That is, to ignore what we don't want, what we don't like, what doesn't feel good, what doesn't fit our current belief system that we're trying to prove right. After the last couple of days and the thing that went on with this gentleman who claims to be a Christed being, I'm a Christed being too. And I'm, he challenged me, you say you're a sage. Well, I'm authentic as I'm capable of being. Maybe he's as authentic as he's capable of being. But it produced, as it always does, a lot of introspection. Do you think I get pleasure seeing someone as a phony, seeing someone as a hypocrite? How do you think that I'm able to see stuff like that? Because I've been there myself. That's the only way that I can recognize something like that. I can't recognize anything that isn't in me. I can't even see it. I have no point of reference. The only way that I can gain a point of reference is by experiencing it myself. That's the only way anybody can have a real point of reference, which brings me to the subject of channeled messages. There's a whole bunch of channeled messages coming through for this new age doctrine. And I suspect a lot of it is coming from spirit beings that have never had a physical lifetime of experience, or if they did, they tried to get away from it as fast as they could, and they didn't ever integrate anything. I suspect, though, the first is that they may be angels that have never had a human experience. They have no clue what it's like. And any advice that they give is virtually worthless because they live in a polarized culture where the light and the dark apparently aren't put in close proximity to each other so that they can't experience the opposites. That's why physical manifestation or physical creation is so important, because it allows us the privilege and the pain of having to deal with opposites. But opposites, as I've said so many times, don't have to oppose each other. They don't have to duel as in duality. They can dance together. It's a beautiful thing to see the masculine and the feminine dancing. And when they dance close enough, new life is born. And that's the way it's done throughout all of creation, all of physical existence. It works that way. It's the merging and the dancing and the making love of the opposites that creates and produces new life. But we've produced a world, and we need to look at this seriously. We've produced a world where all of the opposites are at war. All of the opposites seem to be doing battle, and that battle is coming up in our face every day in the world that we live in. We're seeing the embodiment of insanity, of psychopathy, of sociopathy. We're seeing all of this manifestation going on that's absolutely insane. It's nonsense. But it's real. It's what we're experiencing. This idea of saying, well, the physical world is just appearances, and appearances are all illusions. That's New Age bullshit. I'm sorry. It's Eastern religion bullshit. I'm sorry. It's old. It's not new, actually. It's an escape mechanism of not being willing to take responsibility for what we have on our plate to deal with. And we've all gone through that, haven't we? Haven't you? I have. I still do. It's not a process that's over. It's a process that I'm right in the middle of. I haven't arrived. I don't have all the answers, but neither do you, and neither does anybody else. But we go through phases. I've gone through phases where I thought I knew the answers, and then I put on the mask, trying to convince myself by convincing others that I've got it all together. That's what this gentleman did in the thing that I talked about in yesterday's video, which is actually today's video. He was it reeked. I mean, it absolutely reeked the way he was coming across. And yet there were people that were defending him. Why were they defending him? Because that's where they are too. There's a whole bunch of people in the Swiss Indo delegation. Visionaries, as I've said, they're all visionaries. We're all visionaries. We all want to make a better world. That's the common ground. We all want a world that works better. But there are those that are totally embedded in the New Age doctrine of phoniness, of being a phony. And how do you become a phony? You become a phony by trying to eliminate a polarity that you don't like, that you don't want to deal with. By trying to avoid your shadow, you become a phony. You wear a mask and you have a plastic thing, and people, if you do it hard enough, you reek with hypocrisy. You literally reek with it. How do I know these things? Because I've been there. That's the only way, again, that's the only way I can know anything, or the only way you can know anything. You had to have been there. And nothing makes sense to anybody until they have a point of reference. It's important, as I said in the blurb, to see the good in everything, to look for it, because it's always there. Even in the darkest of storms, there is something positive that comes out of that storm. And even the storms that we're experiencing now in 2014, even these storms, there's going to be good that's going to come out of it. It's important to not become totally enmeshed in pessimism, to have a positive mental attitude. But don't let your positive mental attitude become so imbalanced that it itself becomes negative. That's the danger that we all have to face, that we all have to deal with in this creation, in this evolution of our own conscious awareness. And it is evolving. It's evolving very quickly. Sometimes it doesn't seem quick enough, but it is evolving, and it is spreading all over the world. It is happening in every religion, in every country, in every ideology. It is happening. Even the psychopaths are probably waking up, some of them. Oh, I know that's hard to believe. It's hard to see. But it has to be happening because this is a global cosmic thing that's going on this planet right now. The planet is being redeemed. It's being taken back by forces of good that embrace the so-called forces of darkness. The light embraces the darkness, and the darkness and the light learn to dance instead of dueling. Instead of dueling. This is where we're at in the evolution of our consciousness. And this is why Spirit wouldn't let me go back to sleep, because these are the things that I needed to bring to you today for tomorrow's video. And I couldn't wait till later because I would forget. This was the stuff that was going on in my meditation. This was the flow of thought and feeling and energy that was taking place this morning for me. And I share it with you with the hope that you will get the message that we cannot keep this battle going of separation, trying to separate the poles and eliminate the one that we don't like. That is insanity. That is psychopathic in nature. And we need to heal that part of ourselves. And we need to really learn how to love. Not the phony love that says, I love you, and it's plastic. It's a plastic smile. It's an act of people trying to put on the happy face, but they're not authentic, and you can feel the inauthenticness of them. I don't put down this individual. He's in a process. We're all in a process. It's not about putting anybody down. It's not about saying, oh, look how bad they are to make ourselves look better. No, we're all going through it. And it's time that we look at it and stop trying to fight against life itself. And that's exactly what the elimination of duality idea is all about. It's the elimination, not of duality. It's the elimination of life. Think about it. Be careful when you use the term that we're moving beyond duality. If we move beyond duality, that's the psychopathic vision of a world that they are in total control of. And there's never any surprises. There's never anything enigmatic or paradoxical, because there's total control and there's total safety for the ego to exist without accountability, without responsibility. I guess that's enough for today. I've already gone over 18 and a half minutes. So thank you for listening. Namaste.